I always knew I was the afterthought in my family, the spare, the backup plan. While my younger brother Dylan was the golden child, the heir apparent, the future of Mason family contracting. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother. It's not his fault our parents decided he was destined for greatness from the moment he took his first steps at 9 months old, 2 months earlier than I had. Dylan's smart, charismatic, and hardworking. But so am I, just never got the chance to prove it. I spent my childhood trailing behind my father and Dylan on job sites, watching Dad explain every facet of the business to my brother while I carried tools and swept floors. When I'd ask questions, Dad would offer distracted half-answers before turning back to Dylan with that proud gleam in his eyes. "This will all be yours someday," he'd tell Dylan, never once glancing my way. My mom wasn't much better. Her eyes would light up when Dylan brought home B's, while my A's earned nothing more than a perfunctory good job. When Dylan made varsity baseball as a freshman, they threw him a party. When I was selected for a competitive engineering internship in my junior year, they forgot to pick me up from the interview. I hopped on a city bus, took it to Henderson, and then hitched a ride home to Boulder City. I walked the last mile to our house in the desert heat in my interview suit and dress shoes. I still remember Mom's dismissive laugh. "Oh, Ethan, you're so sensitive. We've just been busy with Dylan's college applications." Dylan was a sophomore. I was a senior. I didn't expect much for my 21st birthday. The previous years had set the bar low. A gift card for my 18th while Dylan got a car for his 16th. A hastily signed card for my 20th while Dylan's 18th warranted a weekend trip to his dream college. But this was 21, a milestone. I allowed myself a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd make a fuss over me for once. The morning of my birthday, Mom announced we'd be going out that evening to celebrate. "We've got something special planned," she said, with an unusual amount of enthusiasm. For a brief, foolish moment, I felt special. Dad even came home early from work. He and Dylan exchanged looks I couldn't interpret, and Mom seemed to be suppressing a smile. We all piled into Dad's company SUV. They made me sit in the back behind the driver's seat, where my knees always hit the back of Dad's seat. "Where are we going?" I asked. "You'll see," Dad replied, catching my eye in the rearview mirror. We drove into Las Vegas, the lights of the Strip growing brighter as we approached. My spirits lifted. Maybe they'd booked a show, or reservations at one of those restaurants where the chefs cook right at your table. Dad pulled up to the valet stand at the Bellagio. A valet opened my door. "Here you go, birthday boy," Mom said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a crisp $100 bill and a card signed by all three of them. I looked up, confused. "What's this for?" Dad clapped me on the shoulder. "You're 21, time to try your luck." The realization dawned slowly, painfully. There was no party, no special dinner. They'd driven me to a casino, given me $100, and expected me to, what, gamble alone on my birthday. "We thought you'd want to experience this rite of passage," Mom explained, misreading my expression as gratitude. "Yeah, bro," Dylan chimed in. "Dad let me play a few slots on a reservation on my 18th. It's fun." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Aren't you guys coming in?" Dad checked his watch. "Actually, we've got dinner reservations." Family business to discuss. Of course they did. "Mason family contracting business?" I asked, already knowing the answer. My parents exchanged that look again, the one that said they were uncomfortable but would push through it for the sake of Dylan. "We were going to surprise him tonight," Mom said softly to Dad, who nodded. Dylan looked at his shoes. Dad cleared his throat. "We're officially making Dylan a partner in the business. He's shown real promise and commitment, and we think it's time." The words hung in the air between us. Dylan was 19 and only a year into college. He was planning on taking time off after finishing his freshman year. I was now 21 with 3.5 years of civil engineering studies under my belt, working to part-time jobs nights and weekends to pay my own tuition because Dad said business was slow and he couldn't afford to help. "That's great," I managed, my voice mechanical. "Congratulations, Dylan." My brother at least had the decency to look ashamed. "Thanks, Ethan. I know you're—" "It's fine," I interrupted. "You guys enjoy your dinner. I'll try my luck." Mom kissed my cheek. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Call us when you're ready to be picked up." unless you meet some nice people and want to stay out late. She gave me a wink that made me want to disappear into the pavement. I stood there, watching them drive away, the weight of the $100 bill heavy in my hand. 21 years of being an afterthought, and this was their grand gesture, ditching me at a casino to celebrate my brother's so-called success. I walked into the Bellagio in a daze, the buzz of slot machines and flashing lights barely registering. ID checked, happy birthday wishes bestowed by security and wristband secured since my ID was technically expiring. I wandered the casino floor, clutching my $100 like it was both precious and poisonous. I had no interest in gambling. I thought about saving the money and adding it to my tuition fund. But a bitter, reckless feeling rose in my chest. They wanted me to gamble. Fine. I'd blow their pathetic gift and then call an Uber home and charge it to the company. I approached a progressive slot machine with a minimum bet of $3 per spin. The jackpot display showed over $8 million. Ridiculous odds, but what did I care? 33 spins and I'd be done. The first few spins yielded nothing. I barely paid attention, my mind still replaying the scene outside the casino, my family driving away. To celebrate Dylan, on the 7th spin, the machine erupted in lights and noise. I blinked, certain I'd misunderstood what was happening. Casino staff materialized around me. People were shouting, taking pictures. A crowd gathered. Congratulations, young man. You've hit the mega progressive jackpot, $8.2 million. I stared dumbly at the flashing numbers on the machine. $8,237,491.26, $8 million. From a $100 birthday gift, $21 worth of spins. The irony wasn't lost on me. Someone handed me champagne. Someone else asked for my ID again. There were forms to sign, tax documents to review, decisions about payment options. I chose a couple hundred up front in cash and the rest as a lump sum, knowing the taxes would take nearly half. I'd still walk away with over $4 million. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Mom. Having fun? Don't spend it all in one place. I stared at the message, then at the casino executives congratulating me. I thought about calling them, sharing the news. Imagine their shocked faces, the sudden interest they'd take in me, the son they'd always overlooked. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, unanswered. I'd prefer to keep this private, I told the casino manager. No publicity. He seemed surprised but nodded. Of course, sir. We'll respect your wishes. I left the Bellagio with paperwork promising me millions and a clarity I'd never felt before. I didn't need my family's approval. I didn't need their business. And I sure as hell didn't need to share my windfall with them. I called an Uber and went back to my tiny apartment. When Mom texted again asking if I needed a ride, I replied that I'd met some friends and would be staying in the city. The next morning, I went to class as usual. 3 weeks passed before the funds were fully processed and transferred to my account. By then, I'd formulated a plan. I paid my tuition for the last semester of my degree program. I continued working my weeknight part-time job, but I quit the weekend job. I said nothing about the money to anyone. I finished my civil engineering degree with honors. My parents and Dylan attended the graduation ceremony, making appropriate noises about being proud, while managing to mention Dylan's business acumen at Mason Family Contracting no less than 7 times. Now that you have your degree, you should consider joining the company, Dad suggested half-heartedly over a celebration lunch at a cheap deli just off campus that catered to students. We could use someone with your technical knowledge. Too little, too late. Actually, I said, I've got other plans. The following week, I incorporated Ethan Mason Engineering. I leased office space in the Las Vegas business district, hired a small staff of talented recent graduates, and began reaching out to contacts I'd made back during my high school internship. My first project was a small one designing drainage systems for a new residential development. My eager team got the plans done under budget and ahead of schedule. The client, impressed, referred me to others. Within 6 months, my company had a reputation for quality work, innovative solutions, and reliability. I specialized in environmentally sustainable construction design, an area Mason Family Contracting had dismissed as tree hugger nonsense, as green building gained popularity, especially in the growing Yet water-starved suburbs of Las Vegas, my expertise became increasingly valuable. A year into my venture, I bid on a major commercial project, an eco-friendly office complex downtown. Mason Family Contracting bid on it too. It was the first time our companies had competed directly. I won the contract. Just over a year after that, the building was completed to widespread acclaim, featured in architecture magazines and held up as an example of forward-thinking design. More contracts followed. I expanded, hiring experienced engineers and architects who brought their own client relationships. 2 years after hitting that slot machine jackpot, Ethan Mason Engineering was outperforming Mason Family Contracting. I had contracts they couldn't touch, relationships with developers who valued innovation over tradition, and a workforce energized by our mission to transform the industry. Dad called me one evening. It was the first direct contact we'd had in months, though I occasionally saw my family at holidays and obligatory gatherings. "Ethan," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "I'm calling to discuss a business matter." "Go on," I replied, rotating in my chair to look out over the city from my corner office. "Mason Family Contracting is struggling. The industry is changing, and we're having trouble adapting." I said nothing, letting the silence stretch. "We've lost a few bids now that we really needed to your company. Our regular clients are asking for the kinds of services you provide." He cleared his throat. "I'm calling to propose a merger." I almost laughed. "Almost, a merger," I repeated. "Yes, Mason and Mason. We could combine our strengths, our experience and your innovation." The irony was exquisite. The business that wasn't good enough for me was now asking for my help. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," I said, my voice steady. "Ethan Mason Engineering isn't interested in a merger at this time." "Ethan, be reasonable. This is family. Is it? When was the last time you treated me like family, Dad? When you dropped me at a casino on my 21st birthday to celebrate making my 19-year-old college dropout brother a partner. Or maybe even before that, when you told me the business couldn't afford to help with my tuition while you were paying for Dylan the dropout's college education." He didn't have an answer for that. "I built this company from nothing," I continued. "No help, no nepotism, no handouts, just hard work and good decisions." "And where did you get the capital?" Dad demanded, a note of suspicion entering his voice. "You didn't have that kind of money." I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "Let's just say I got lucky." 21 is a lucky age, isn't it? The silence on the other end told me he was figuring it out. "The casino," he finally said, "that night, your birthday. Turns out that $100 was quite the investment." Another long pause. "Why didn't you tell us?" It was the question I'd been waiting for. Why would I? You'd already made it clear where I stood in the family hierarchy. You'd already decided Dylan was worthy of the family business and I wasn't. Why would I give you the chance to suddenly decide I was worth your time just because I had money? That's not fair, Ethan. We've always loved you. Maybe, but you never valued me. There's a difference. I heard him sigh heavily. "What about Dylan?" he asked. "This is his future too." For the first time in the conversation, I felt a twinge of something, not quite guilt, but consideration. Dylan had been handed everything, yes, but he hadn't asked for our parents' favoritism. "Dylan is welcome to interview for a position at Ethan Mason Engineering," I said finally. "Based on his qualifications and merit, not his last name." Dad made a strangled sound. "You'd make your own brother apply for a job, the same way I would have had to apply to work at Mason Family Contracting." "Yes." We ended the call shortly after. I sat in my office as darkness fell over the city, lights twinkling like the casino floor that night. I wasn't vindictive enough to want my family's business to fail completely, but I wasn't selfless enough to sacrifice what I'd built to save them. A week later, Dylan called me. "Can we meet for coffee?" he asked. "Just us." We met at a cafe halfway between our offices. Dylan looked tired, the weight of a struggling business aging him far beyond his now 21 years. "Dad told me," he said without preamble, "about the jackpot." "About your offer." I nodded, waiting. "I never realized," he continued, stirring his coffee absently, "how differently they treated us. It was so normal to me that I didn't see it. I'm sorry, Ethan." His apology, unexpected and genuine, loosened something in my chest. "It wasn't your fault," I admitted. You were a kid too, still. He looked up at me. I should have said something, done something. We sat in silence for a moment. I don't want to interview for a job, he said finally. I nodded, unsurprised but a little disappointed. I want to earn my place, he continued. I'm going back to school. Getting a degree in sustainable construction management. If you're still hiring in 3 years, maybe we can talk then. I looked at my younger brother with new respect. Maybe he had more of me in him than I'd thought. I'll hold you to that, I said, offering my hand. We shook on it, brothers finding common ground at last. As for my parents, our relationship remains complicated. They've come to understand that their actions had consequences they never anticipated. They've seen the son they underestimated build something remarkable through his own merit. They've had to reckon with their favoritism and its effects. Sometimes I think about that night at the Bellagio, about the cruel dismissal that turned into unexpected fortune. I think about the parallel universe where I never hit that jackpot, where I might have eventually joined the family business on their terms, always second best, always the afterthought. I don't regret keeping my winning secret. I don't regret building my own path. And oddly enough, I don't even regret that painful birthday. It was the push I needed to break free of their negative expectations and define success on my own terms. The best revenge isn't destroying what hurt you. It's building something so magnificent that those who hurt you must acknowledge your worth. Not because you demand it, but because your success has made it impossible to ignore. That $100 bill wasn't just seed money for a lucky jackpot. It was the price of my freedom. And in the end, that was worth more than any amount of millions. Please like and subscribe for more great revenge stories. Have you ever felt unseen by family? Had you been lucky enough to be in Ethan's shoes and win that jackpot, would you have told your family? We'd love to read your comments.